Hello.
Dr. Bowling had asked if this could be recorded. Who has recording privileges?
I think we have it recording.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks. How are y'all? I can't hear you.
Sorry. I'm going to actually be introducing them tonight because Dr. Bowling had a family emergency.
Oh,
Yeah, just let us know. I guess I'll get it started and then I'll pass it off to you and then you make
Okay.
the introductions and then tell me when to screen share.
Okay. Yeah, great. Yeah, our student who's doing the screen share is named 9 minutes.
I'm sorry, what's their name?
Natalie Torres.
No. Okay. Suzanne, do you know where I can mute everyone if I need to, or do you have the controls?
I don't think I have the controls. I don't see myself listed as the host or co-host. If you click on participants, that might be where it is. Do you see anything? Wait, no, I wasn't muted.
Yeah, I do see it. I muted you and then unmuted you.
Okay. I'm
Yeah.
trying to help Joanne Collins. She says her link's not working, so I'm trying to see if I can forward. I don't know if it's a unique link, but
No, it should just be the link to register. And then once she
I told her she had to register. I'm not sure if she did, but let me see if I can forward. Hang Hang on a second and I'll be right back too.
So Michelle, Natalie's online now. Natalie,
Natalie.
can you make yourself known to Michelle so that she knows who you are for screen sharing?
Hello. My name's Natalie. I'll be one of the presenters today.
Okay, hi.
And you're the one screen sharing, right, Natalie?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
So Michelle, do you know David Stelter?
Yeah, he's come to some of our meetings.
Okay, because I just went to his place to do a reconnaissance on Saturday. So maybe we can chat about that with Kate for some spring field trip. So anyway, or even another Prairie Seekers. So
Okay. So it is a nice property then, it sounds like.
Sounds
well,
promising.
it's really different from the grasslands, and I think it would be a really nice comparison for a different phase of succession, because it's on cross timbers, eastern cross timber sand, and it was crop fields, and now he's doing, and it's only about 8 years old. And so I just think it might be a really interesting thing to look at and compare with something that's much more, much farther along, or is actually more of a remnant. This isn't a remnant, it was a wheat field. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, that does sound really interesting. I think people should have a chance to see something like that for comparisons too, because that's probably more realistic.
I'll start my video so you're not talking to a black wall, but anyway, I hadn't had a chance to email you, but I thought that we should just talk about it for some time in the spring, maybe in May. So.
Yeah. I think it's funny because now so many people are using Zoom and WebEx and whatever else. And my job has gotten to the point where nobody turns the screens on anymore. And I just imagine everyone's in their pajamas and haven't brushed their hair. And I, like, for tonight, I actually took a shower. Like,
Does
I
this
have
look like
clean hair
Susan
for
Tuttle?
this.
Does this look like Suzanne Tuttle?
And Joanne is my doppelganger tonight.
I clicked on the link on the Facebook page and it took me to a bad page. I didn't do it early, so I don't know. Surely the link is, maybe we'll have people. Oh, there's Diane saying somebody. At least I try to put on a shirt.
That's good. That's good.
I gotta let the dog out. I'll be back. What's your barking? Puppy?
So I'm going back undercover.
I'm going with you. Get out there and bark and bug her. They can feed you.
I don't know what happened with that link, but I just put a new link in. So
Oh, so it was broken, huh?
yeah, on that one, on the, I guess the more recent post, it looks like it is broken.
Well, I know I've gotten some emails that said people have signed up. I even tried to do the code on one of the emails. It's like it gives a code. I thought, well, maybe that'll work, and it didn't work.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, let me just wait a couple more minutes and then we'll start.
I almost forgot again. I was in my bed. I brought my computer in there. I was going to work on stuff and went, I'm supposed to be in a meeting. I'm supposed to be Zooming.
Yeah. So Natalie, are you all students, are y'all pretty zoomed out, or are you?
We're
that's just
ready.
the way it is now.
Jocelyn's another one of our presenters. She's right there. I don't know if you can see her. The three presenters will be me, Jocelyn, and Cristobal. And we'll be discussing our presentation. Jocelyn will start off with her introduction, and then Cristobal will discuss his recipes, and then I'll be discussing the results.
Okay. All right.
I don't see Cristobal on the chat. Is he here yet?
I think I saw him. Hold up. He might not be. Let me see if I think he was asking me for the link. I'll send it to him. Yeah, he just asked me for the link.
Yeah, a good link helps.
Yeah, tell him.
I'm gonna try to send it to him because I'm not sure if he's on the Land Scholars Organization's page.
Now I'm me.
So I'll give them a few minutes. I don't want to. I've always said that time is gold. Either you waste it or either you invest it. So thank you all for being here with us tonight. It's been a difficult year, as you can tell. So thank you for having mercy and grace while we get accommodated. Yeah.
So is he still trying to sign in?
He's still not here, so I think yes.
He's trying to figure out how to enter the link because he has the link, but he can't figure out how to make it work.
I'll send it to him now, Lily. Let me see.
Right,
I'll send it to him on my mind and see if he can get to it from there.
See if he can sign in with that link in the chat.
Okay, thank you. I'll try to send that one to him.
He's in. Yay. or an alias. Someone's adopted his alias. Okay, so I think we can start then. We've got our three Marine Creek land scholars. So thank everyone for joining us tonight. we appreciate you joining, and we appreciate our presenters, especially in this time of COVID, when we've all had to adapt and adjust to a completely different format, which I think everyone's probably been on a million Zoom and WebEx calls. I know I have, but I'm still kind of defunct and not very good at problem solving and the technical IT stuff that goes along with using this technology. Tonight we have Melanie Grubbs with us, and she's going to introduce the Marine Creek Land Scholars and the program, and also tell us about Greta, who cannot be here tonight. So I'm going to let Melanie go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much, Michelle. So I am Melanie Grubbs. I'm a 9th grade geography teacher at Marine Creek Collegiate High School. And yes, you're gonna have to settle for me tonight. Dr. Bowling really wishes she could be here. She had a family emergency tonight. So Marine Creek Land Scholars, if you've seen one of our presentations before, you know a little bit about Marine Creek Land Scholars. It is a collaborative partnership with between Marine Creek High School, Tarrant County College. It's the brainchild of myself and Dr. Bowling, who's the chair of the biology department at TCC Northwest. It's focusing on developing tomorrow's land leaders through team building, environmental problem solving, public speaking, providing research opportunities in the fields of biology, ecology, environmental science. Our mission in the Land Scholars Program is to foster a culture of environmental awareness by creating informed land leaders of tomorrow. The students you're about to hear from are from our inaugural class. We could not be prouder of them. I taught these students as freshmen in my geography class, and let me just say, it's hard for me not to get teary-eyed, okay, because they have totally exceeded our expectations. When Greta and I first started this program, like, we didn't even know where it was going to go, but I mean, they have blown us away, and we are so proud of them. The idea was to have a capstone project their senior year and to have them present that to maybe some sort of a conference, like a regional or national conference. They began their project last year, their junior year, and they were going to be looking into seed bombs. So they started looking up recipes like last fall. And last February, we actually made the seed bombs, and we were going to plant them when we came back from spring break. So you all know what happened at that time. So during spring break, obviously our whole world turned upside down. But amazingly, you know, luckily, like everything else, we have a great support team. We have Mark Rhodes, we have James Hobbs, both from TCC, who they stepped up and they planted the seed bombs. They did, you know, they did all of the physical work that the students couldn't do, right? So the students are virtual, and then Mark, who's in the biology department, and James, who's in the geology department, we're doing the physical work. So if you can imagine, I mean, that's kind of how that is coordinated, just crazy. But the students have been virtual since March of this year. And so to get all of that together, it has been a really big task for them. We are just so proud that they have made it to this moment. So without further ado, we have 13 students in this year's cohort. We also with us tonight have several of our junior class who are, you know, going to be taking up the torch next year, and they're just here to kind of observe and see what they're going to be doing. So we're really happy about that. But tonight, our presenters for our senior class are Natalie Torres and Jocelyn Rojas and Chris Cordero. And so without further ado, I'm going to let them take it because they're really the stars of this show.
And y'all tell me when you need to screen share, if you want to start now or.
Yes.
I need to screen share right now. Jocelyn will be the first presenter, and then it'll be Chris, and then finally me. One question before I screen share. So do I need to leave the mic on whenever I start screen sharing, or can I just hop back into the Zoom meeting?
I think whenever you're done screen sharing, I think you can just mute your mic. Is that what you're asking? And then see if you can grab the screen. I think I have it where multiple people can share.
Okay. Jocelyn, do you think you can share it too? So whenever, or I don't know, it's because the way I was looking at it is I'll be sharing it for Jocelyn and Chris, and then I'll have to switch over here to turn on my mic, and I'll have to exit out, but that'll work. All right, so let me go ahead and share my desktop. Can everyone see it?
Yeah.
Yes. All right,
All
can
right.
everybody hear me? If you can hear me, say boom chakalaka or say yes in the group chat.
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Why didn't anybody say boom chakalaka? Just kidding. Hello, everybody. I'm
Boom
Jocelyn.
shakalaka.
Can I start now? Yeah, we're good. Okay, hello everybody. I'm Jocelyn Rojas. I'm part of the Marine Creek Land Scholars, and this is our project. Next, please, Natalie. A quote that we would read in our meetings is, "The world as we have created, it is a process of our thinking. It cannot be changed without changing our thinking," by our Einstein. So each member, fun fact, each member has a quote that our sponsors chose for us that identifies with us. Mine is, "I alone cannot change the world, but I can cast a stone across the waters to make many ripples," by Mother Teresa. So whenever you get a hold of a land scholar, ask them what their keystone quote is, and I am sure they would be glad to share it with you. Just a fun fact. Next, Natalie. The outline of our presentation is the following. We're going to be sharing with you tonight the introduction, the background, the experiment design, the recipes, the method of measuring success, and the results, and we will be comparing them also. So let's begin. Like Ms. Grubb said, we are the Marion Creek Collegiate High School Land Scholars. Our background. So what exactly are land scholars? What does it mean to be a land scholar? A Marine Creek Collegiate Land Scholar is a joint organization between Tarrant County College, Northwest, and Marine Creek Collegiate High School that started in 2017. And yes, we are the inaugural class of 2021. Anyways, scholars in this program, we work with TCC educators and with Marine Creek instructors to learn ecological mindfulness and preservation attitudes. The students are encouraged to work with nearby ecological associations like y'all and on mindfulness and protection of the environment. To be a land scholar is to have an impact, is to be an impactful leader that strives to be a world changer. So this is our group of the land scholars. So let's recap a little bit. I know that y'all probably have an idea of what of what our project kind of is because y'all joined us in the first meeting. The recap this time last year, we presented to the Native Prairie Association of Texas about our plans for this project. After taking into consideration and of everything that was said, we conducted research, and here we are presenting our findings of the research. So what exactly are seed bombs? Seed bombs are a combination of ingredients that are compacted in the shape of a ball in order to grow in prairies. It is a form of guerrilla gardening, if I said it right, to quickly regrow prairies without too much work. Compost and clay work is the career for the seed to launch them over long distance. So if y'all didn't know much about a seed bomb, which I am sure y'all do, well, this is a little bit more of a fact. So what exactly is our research question? Our research question is, which recipes of the seed bombs works the best? And what will we be measuring? Through this experiment, we hope to find whether or not seed bombs truly work and which recipe is the most effective. This is what we intended to measure. However, due to the unfortunate circumstances, we were unable to cover everything. In order to measure the success rate in each recipe, we measured by seeing how much was the growth, the number of seedlings that it produced, and the abundance of the plant. In the experimental design, the environment, since the question we are trying to answer is which recipe works the best, we will be conducting this experiment in a perfect environment, which is in a greenhouse. While placing 60 seed bombs, we placed them in a greenhouse. Well, we didn't place them, but there will be a further explanation why. The recipes will vary in each group, but what they will have in common is that each has 20 seeds. Groups. The work was divided among 3 groups of our peers, and each one chose a recipe. Each made a total of 40 seed bombs, half for flower and half for grass, and then the half were placed inside of the greenhouse, while the other half was placed outside, producing 120 seeds. So like Ms. Grubbs said, we did have unfortunate obstacles. As everybody knows, I feel like everybody has been impacted by this pandemic one way or another. Well, not only was our schoolwork impacted, but also was our project impacted. And in general, our whole organization of students was impacted by COVID-19. It's sad how we didn't even have the opportunity to touch the plant or even see the plant. We only saw it by picture. But thanks to our wonderful teachers and sponsors, which are shout out to you, Greta Bowling, Ms. Melanie Grubbs, James Hobbs, and Mark Rhodes. They made this project possible for us. Many of us were like, well, what are we gonna do? They said, don't give up, we'll see. And they planted it for us in the greenhouse and outside. Another obstacle was accommodating to the new workspace. It was difficult for us to gather along together since it's now virtually. Some would not show up, or somebody had a homework to do, or whatnot. Everybody is busy on their own way, but just figuring out a schedule to get together was difficult, and the consistency of meeting together since it was virtual, that really impacted our project. But no matter the difficult circumstances, here we are, and here we are strong, and we are proudful to see what is yet to come.
Okay, this is where Chris is going to take over.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Boom, chakalaka.
Okay, so my name is Cristóbal Cordero, and I'll be presenting the 3 recipes. The first recipe is our rainbow bombs. Uh, the list of ingredients was 400 grass seeds, 400 black-eyed Susan seeds, half a gallon uh, of pots, sheets of construction paper, potting soil, food processor to ground up the construction paper, water, baking sheets, and parchment paper. And our procedures were to cut the construction paper into length pieces, soak the pieces in water for about 20 minutes, and then take out and let them sit in for 10 minutes in paper so the excess moisture can leave. On our second recipe was our compost seed bombs. They also had 400 grass seeds and 400 black-eyed Susan seeds. They also had half a gallon pots. We used potting soil, peat-free compost, and powdered clay. Our procedure was to mix 20 seeds. Half of them were grass seeds, and the other half were black-eyed Susans. 5 cups of compost and 2 to 3 cups of clay. We mixed with water, rolled them into a firm ball, and left them out to dry in the sun. On our third recipe was the basic manure seed bomb. We used 400 grass seeds, 400 black-eyed Susan seeds, half a gallon pots, potting soil, clay, and regular manure. The procedures were moisten the clay until softened, mix 1:1 ratio of clay and manure, add 20 seeds, roll mixture into a ball shape, and air dried seed bombs at room temperature.
Okay, here's where our results will start. And before I get started, there's something I'd like to say. Due to the pandemic, we were unable to take any measurements. And so, as stated in the previous slides, that affected our project. So instead of taking measurements and comparing the data, the quantitative data, we'll be comparing qualitative data based off of the abundance of the plant and the color. Also, if the plant appears to be alive or wilted. That's how we'll be comparing the grass data. And then for the black-eyed Susans, we'll be comparing based off of the amount of flowers there is, the abundance, and whether or not they appear alive or wilted. Okay, so I'll begin. So here's the slide for the manure versus the compost recipes. And then in the first one, the grass with the compost seeds bombs appears greener. The compost side is right here, while the manure side is right here. This one appears a bit more dry, while this one appears greener. And then one of the plants from the manure recipe was wilted, the one right here, or just didn't grow enough. And then the grass from the compost seed bombs seemed more abundant. We determined this because we saw that this one you can see through the grass here, while this one there's a lot of grass blades and it's very hard to see through them. For the winner of this recipe battle, we chose the compost with the grass seeds, and we based this off of the abundance and the color of the plants. This may be due to the help in the material helping out, keeping in the moisture. Here is where the black-eyed Susans, the recipes we'll be comparing is the manure versus the compost. The manure recipe has more flowers than the compost. It can be seen here. And then the compost recipe doesn't have any flowers at all. The compost recipe does appear to have an abundance in green plants. However, the problem is that we're unsure if this is weeds from seeds that came in from the outside environment or if it's the actual flowers. For this one, we determined the winner is the manure recipe, and we believe this because it has a lot of more flowers. And then although some of them appear to be dead, this one doesn't have any flowers at all. Here's our paper versus compost. The compost grass grew to be taller than the paper grass. However, the paper grass has a lot of green color, but it's a lot shorter and less abundant. The grass that grew in the compost recipe seems to be more abundant, and it's determined in the same way that we determined the last one. Here you can see that a lot of the light can be seen through, and then this one's wilted, while a lot of these are green and very compacted together. We determined the winner for this one to be the grass, and even in the germination process, the compost reaches a higher and fuller length, and the abundance seems a lot more than the paper. The next one is the black-eyed Susans. It was the paper versus the compost recipes. Both of them seem to have done really bad, and we think that this may help us determine which seed bomb is better than the others. 3 out of the 5 paper recipes appeared to be taller than the compost recipes, but wilted a lot faster. And 1 out of the 5 compost recipes grew to be taller, but did not bloom. And over here in the paper recipe, this seems to be a lot greener, but the problem is that this doesn't seem to be a black-eyed Susan. It seems to be more of a weed than an actual plant. So for this one, we determined that the compost recipe was the winner because these plants seem green and these appear to have died and wilted away faster. For the grass, it's a lot harder to tell which one is a clear winner because almost all the recipes for grass seem to have survived. But both recipes produced living plants. The manure recipe plants appear shorter. The manure recipe grass seems more abundant, and that was determined, as stated in the previous slides, by how thick the grass looks in comparison to the other one. The winner for this one was the manure recipe, and we determined that by looking at the abundance and the color. Here is the manure versus the paper recipe, and it was the black-eyed Susans. All the pots for the manure recipe have live flowers, while none of the pots for the paper recipe have live flowers. For this one, the winner was clear, and we chose that the manure recipe had won. And we chose this based off of the amount of live flowers that the manure recipe has versus the amount of live flowers that the paper recipe has. And since it doesn't have any live flowers, the results were obvious. Here we determined which recipes worked the best and which recipes worked the worst. And this is based off the previous slides, and we compared them all. The best recipe for black-eyed Susans was the manure recipe, while the best recipe for grass was the compost recipe. We believe that this may help us determine which recipe is the best in total, because the black-eyed Susans might take more nutrients to grow. So by seeing that the manure recipe helped the Susans bloom, might tell us that it has more nutrients and will help the prairie more than the recipe for compost or paper. The worst recipes for both the categories black-eyed Susan and grass was paper. This helps us determine that although the paper recipe did work, it did not work as well as the others. So here we are coming to a conclusion. This is our future direction slide, and we wanted to show that after we finished our research, we also need to have questions for the future so that the next land scholars can have a direction for the research. Here are possible questions, which include: which recipe works the best for outside? Does the type of soil affect how well the seed bombs work? Does the size of the seed bombs affect how well they work? And do less seed bombs per seed bomb work better? We need to find a question so that our next year land scholars can use that to start off the research and then eventually come to a conclusion in a couple of years. What question would you guys suggest that we used in order to continue our research? This is an invitation for people to comment what questions they would like to see us looking into.
Well, this is Michelle, and I'm really intrigued by what y'all noticed with the manure. And I think you should definitely follow research with the manure mix, because that could be evidence of a direct link between prairies and large grazing mammals such as bison. You know, one year of research wouldn't show that conclusively, but I really think it would be neat to keep looking at the manure mix for sure, because that, you know, there is a symbiotic relationship basically of, you know, historically bison grazing prairies and then defecating on prairies, which would provide nutrients for those plants.
All right. So would you say the question would be, I'm trying to think of what specific question we would ask, because manure is a good direction to head into, but we need to help them determine what they want to see the difference in. So maybe like, would a manure seed bomb work better inside or outside? Something like that. Or what would you suggest would be a better question?
So I look at your list of questions here and I like them. The question about going outside is going to introduce lots and lots of new variables. So if you're concerned that you don't yet have the optimum ratio, say of number of seeds or size of bomb, then I think you should continue your experimentation in a controlled environment until you determine which of those is better. Is it better to have fewer or more seeds? That's one potential question. Or would you want to pursue the question of, is a larger seed bomb? I actually wouldn't look at a larger seed bomb next. If I was suggesting what to do, I would stay indoors and I would look at the number of seeds in the bomb. And your question can be as simple as, does the number or the ratio, you might want to do this by weight. Does the amount of seed material per bomb influence germination rate or growth or flower production? Those are all possible avenues for you. The size of the seed bomb, if you did it at the same time, would complicate that enormously, because too many seeds in too small an area will compete for the same nutrients. So you would have to look at those two things independently.
All right. So you would suggest that we use the number of seeds as our next question, because it'll help us determine which form of seed bomb works best. And then after a while of determining the variables that work best for seed bombs, we can take it outside, correct?
Exactly. I would suggest you get your team together and think about the unknowns. So you have some variables still, some things you can make into variables. You have the number of seeds, you have the size of the bomb. Because you're in controlled conditions, you don't have to worry about weather and water and things like that. So stay in controlled environment, pick one question that you want to see continue. And when you talk about the number of seeds, there's always some variability in the size of the bombs. I don't think you can make them exactly the same. So you might want to think more in terms of weight of seed material versus the carrier material, or you might want to think in terms of density. So those are questions I would put to your scholars to think about and see if you can craft your experimental question in the way that will be the easiest for you to have clear results.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have a question that they would suggest for our research? I'm writing this down, by the way.
I have a question of Michelle, just kind of a follow-up for them.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were talking about just to continue following the manure recipe. So would it be prudent to try different manures? I mean, would that be a potential research avenue for them? Because you were talking about, bison. Would it be, could we talk about, cow manure? Could we talk about, chickens? Could we talk about like all different kinds of things?
So I guess my one question was, what was the source of the manure? Was it just a premix that you buy in a bag, or did y'all mix it yourself? I think, it would be really interesting if you could go to the Fort Worth Nature Center and ask for some bison manure, or maybe Kate or Suzanne or someone could round some up for next year. That would really throw the parameters of the research into a whole other arena, because you're not gonna likely know the level of nutrients within it. But if you just kept it simple, it would be interesting to actually
Okay.
buy some manure. But if that's not available, I just think, the nutrient level of nitrogen and other things that would be in the manure would just make for some interesting results. It could throw some of the plants into high gear reproductively.
This is Kate. Can we ask a question? Jeroen has a question.
Yes, go ahead. Or I think the question slide, the question slide's in 2 more slides. All right. Or go ahead.
When I look at your
Could you speak up? I can't hear you too well.
I found it very surprising that the 5 or 6 plants that use the same type of bomb look very similar, which is encouraging in a way. It may also mean that
Kate, you may have to repeat. We can't hear Huron.
okay. When I looked at your data, your plants, all the plants from the same type of bomb looked about equally healthy. There was very little spread in the amount of grass from the same type of bomb, which means you have done something right. In this picture, you can see that if you look at the manure grass, they all look very much the same, and the other type also looks very much the same. So there's in size, it is very surprisingly low. And I wonder if that's something you can measure. If you get closer to the plant cells, you can count how many grass plants are. And probably it has to do something with how many seeds there were in the bomb. But I didn't really know. That'd be interesting to observe.
I'm sorry, we couldn't really hear you to the last part. I heard something about the seeds. Earlier in the presentation, we stated in our experiment design that each seed bomb has about 20 seeds. So when it came to the grass and the change in abundance, it didn't have to do with the amount of seeds, because each seed bomb had the same amount of seeds. However, I agree with you that the grass all appeared to be pretty much the same, which I think says that the seed bombs are a success. The only difference that we noticed was more on the Black-Eyed Susan side. Did that help with the question?
Natalie, let me try and clarify just a little bit what Jeroen said. He's commenting that within a category, so let's go back to your grass slide, please, that showed the Yeah, this is a fine one, paper versus compost. So what he observed was that there is clear, distinct differences between the paper versus the compost. And he is surprised to see there is very little variation within a single group. So most of the compost grasses look about the same, and most of the paper grasses look about the same. And his comment was that should give you confidence in your methods, because you see clear differences. So you actually are making valid measurements.
Oh, thank you. I couldn't understand that too well, but that clears it up a lot.
And then the suggestion is to measure the variance.
So one of the thoughts he wants to suggest for you to consider is there's also the possibility that you could measure that variance within a given type. So you have a baseline established by the work you've already done, and you see that the variance is low, and I'm not sure how you would characterize it, but I'm sure your team could come up with a standard definition of what is the norm and what is the variation from the norm. So he is just adding one more consideration to your list of possible questions. And if you understand the variation that you normally get, you will be able to better understand future results if they appear different, if they vary more or less.
Yes, that makes sense. I wrote it down. Is there anything you want to add to that so we can take a note of that and take that further in our research?
He says, thank you.
Oh, thank you. All right, so does anyone else have any questions any suggestions for
I
questions?
had a thought. What about doing, it seemed like the compost and the manure were the best, had the best results. Have you thought about doing some combinations of compost and manure to see if it makes a difference?
We hadn't thought about making combinations when it came to compost and manure, but that seems like a good idea, and we'll take that into consideration for next year's Land Scholars. All right. Does anyone have any more suggestions for the possible questions? If not, we can continue to the question slide where you can begin to ask questions about the research as a whole. Okay, so the references, we didn't cite them right here, but they're available upon request. And thank you everyone for coming. Thank you to Native Prairies Association of Fort Worth for the time and effort. Thank you to Marine Creek High School for allowing us to form this organization and giving us the support to do all this research. And thank you Tarrant County College for our resources and for funding us and for becoming a part of the Land Scholars as a whole. Does anyone have any questions?
I think we probably have a lot of questions. You might go through the chat and see if there are any general questions you could answer, and then open it up to people to ask questions over the mic.
All right,
I'm going through the chat for you.
I'm gonna stop sharing the presentation so that I can go back to the chat.
So I have a comment rather than a question. Can I just go ahead?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so this is a clear example of making lemonade. When you started this presentation and you said you couldn't make measurements, I was pretty sure it was going to be a lightweight result at the end. And as you explained what you did and showed us your I would call it your evidence, your documentation, what you photographed and the way you captured that information and the conclusions you drew from it, I think have, you conducted a valid experiment, and when you couldn't do what you set out to do, you devised an excellent replacement. So I really want to say you guys did a great job.
Thank you. We could have done this without the help of our teachers and our sponsors. We also had a lot of help from all the other members who couldn't be here. We divided the work among our groups, and then everyone chose their group and then made the results. We only went through and revised everything. All right, so
This is a round of applause for y'all for for being in the Marine Creek Land Scholars and making that a program that is successful, for being engaged students, and for trusting science and working to do these experiments and share your results with all of us, and then also mentoring students who are coming up under you. I think this program is really, really valuable, and it's super exciting for all of us to know that y'all are working on these kinds of projects, and we're hoping that y'all will become some sort of scientist, maybe botanist or ecologist, or you could become an accountant if you want, but we'd be super happy if you became a botanist.
we use the research and all this stuff from the organization to take it further. And so for an example, I really like nature, but what I want to do is psychology. So I've used the opportunities that I've gotten from this organization in order to learn how to conduct research and all that stuff. So further, I want to go into being a psychiatrist and then doing research. So I think this will be really useful for that.
So one thing that I always tell kids, and I may have told a couple of y'all because I've subbed for you before, is anybody can be a naturalist, an accountant, a teacher, a trash man. Anybody can be a naturalist. All you have to do is understand nature and get out and enjoy nature. So if nothing else, if this gave you a way to understand nature, then we've got more people on our side, and that's what we need. So I hope that it at least did that, and maybe you will someday decide you want to be an ecologist or biologist, and you can always become a master naturalist and do that in your old age like I did.
I have a comment as well. I think it's psychology is very important in conservation. Right now we're dealing with a lot psychologically as far as climate change and as far as just getting people to think more about the environment. And I think psychology would be a very good avenue to take in as far as trying to get people to understand what's at stake and why it's important to conserve the land and why these remnant prairies are so important. So yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, and I would say actually the discipline it takes to formulate research projects and follow through and use your critical thinking skills, that can apply to any career path. So this is good experience no matter what career you choose or what you do with your life. So critical thinking skills are good always. Now I know there were some questions in the chat. I was just gonna, y'all got a lot of accolades for sure. Let's see. Someone asked, how long does it take for the seed bombs to break down and release the seeds? Did y'all collect any data or observations on that?
We weren't able to get the observations that we wanted to go through like every couple of weeks and then see how the seed bombs are doing. But we did get information from the teachers. One of the teachers mentioned that the paper seed bomb didn't actually degrade into the soil. It just kind of stayed as a ball and the grass was just growing out of it. So that's why we also believe that it might be a reason why the seed bomb didn't work, wasn't as successful as the other seed bombs. And then lots of the seed bombs stayed in the shape of a ball, but they were able to become part of the soil as well. We don't have the exact time, but we do know that the paper one wasn't able to fall apart while the other ones were able to incorporate themselves into the soil.
Yeah, I wonder if the paper ones just got a little bit gummy and gluey and didn't degrade. It'd be somewhat the same as if you put like a thick layer of hay or something down, it would just compact and break down. It would take longer to break down than if you already have compost or manure. Let's see. Someone else asked, what kind of landscape is most receptive to successful seed bomb germination? So they're asking, this is Jim, asking soil types, competing plants, compaction or loosening of the soils. So what kind of landscape do you think would be the most receptive to propagate?
So for this question, I don't feel like I have enough experience to be able to say like an exact answer. I can just say what I think based off the observations that I've seen. And so for the black-eyed Susans, there was a lot of wilting black-eyed Susans and most of them did not survive. So I think that for black-eyed Susans, that a prairie with a lot of competing flowers and other plants won't be the best environment for them. However, the grass will be able to grow almost anywhere. So I think it really depends on the type of plant that you want to grow. So if you want to grow a prairie with mainly grasses, a seed bomb with grass would be best in almost any environment, while a seed bomb with black-eyed Susans or another type of flower would have to have an environment with less competing life forms.
What do you think about that, Susan? I think that is actually a really good conclusion, actually.
Well, yeah, because a lot of research now is that if you start a prairie restoration with grasses, the grasses will get so established that they won't let the wildflowers come in and germinate. They will take up every tiny square inch of the soil. So you really have to give the wildflowers a little bit of a head start over the grasses to get them established if you're starting from scratch. So I think that actually perfectly illustrates that, you know, that the flowers couldn't compete. And that's what other experiments have shown in prairie restoration, that the flowers can't compete with grass. You got to give them a head start.
All right, thank you.
So should you plant flowers first? Is that becoming more of a trend to plant the forbs first before they plant grasses in a restoration?
Well, not necessarily first, but a heavy amount of seeds so that more of the wildflowers have an opportunity to germinate. And then when you're managing it later, you manage it in such a way that this is a pretty complicated, so we can't really go into it tonight, but you select against the grasses and for the flowers. So you burn, say, the grasses at a time when it really knocks the grasses back a lot more so that there's more bare ground for the flowers to have more room. That's basically a simplistic way of there. I mean, if you read Chris Helzer's blog, The Prairie Ecologist, oh my gosh, that's what he does. He figures out, when am I gonna make more habitat by increasing the biodiversity by burning and seed introduction. And it's
so I was curious as this black-eyed Susans, only because I can't grow anything very well. It has to grow by itself. And I, for a couple of years, had a really nice, the very first time I put black-eyed Susans down, they grew like wildfire. So I was surprised that the black-eyed Susans didn't do as well. And I wonder if it has to do with some other variable, being in the greenhouse perhaps, or I don't know. Because I was kind of surprised that they didn't do as well.
That's one of the things that we were looking at when we started the research. We were choosing the seeds that we wanted to do something that would grow a lot easier, because we didn't want for us to choose a recipe and then think it didn't work because we got a really hard flower to grow.
Mm-hmm.
So we chose the black-eyed Susans because we figured it'd be a lot easier to grow. And then I think that the variables that took place were that not only were the black-eyed Susans like had to, how do you say it, had to adapt to the recipes, but they also had to adapt to not having someone there to care for them as often, because due to the pandemic, we weren't able to go as often as we wanted to check up on the flowers. So that might have been an issue as well.
That's true.
Let's see. Okay, so there's another comment from Diane Weatherby in the chat. She said, seed bombs are actually a topic I've floated for my PhD dissertation. My question will be something like, how effective are seed bombs as a method of restoring small prairie patches? And she'd love to get in contact, the contact info for the teachers to talk about working with y'all. Let's see.
I'll have our teachers drop their contact information in the chat, and then you can get in contact with them, and then they'll get you in contact with next year's Land Scholars. Unfortunately, most of us, Jocelyn, Chris, and I will be graduating this year, so we won't be able to be here in order to continue the research. But next year's Land Scholars, which include a couple of students in the gallery, will be here next year, and they're the ones that you will be working with.
I wouldn't say unfortunately you're graduating. I would say fortunately you're graduating.
That's true, but I don't know. I'm a bit nervous.
Yeah. Okay, and then I think there's just maybe one or two more. Lorraine just says, after initial results of cattle manure and bird poo has been used as a source of nitrogen after cattle manure has done its work, is that something that could be studied in the future? So she's just thinking about different kinds of poo. Jan Miller also was saying maybe you could do, another form of experiment could be ruminants, horses versus birds, or some other sort of manure. And I think those are all the questions. Yep, that's all the questions, but you have a lot of accolades and comments in the chat. So did we have any other vocal questions?
I'm just curious about the grasses. Was it all the same species of grass in the seed ball mix, or was it a mix of different species of grass?
I can't tell you for sure. I'm not sure what kind of seeds we got. I know that we got all our seeds from the same place, but I'm not sure what kind of, if it was a mix of seeds or if it's just a specific kind of grass. So I think that question we should be asking our sponsor, Melanie Grubbs.
Yeah, and I think, for maybe next year's experiment, may just narrow it down and make sure you're using one type of grass, because, one grass could be more aggressive than another, or one grass could get established quicker or easier. So in your seed bomb, just narrow it down to one grass species versus one wildflower species.
Yeah, I think we were very ambitious this year. I think they were very ambitious this year, and that's awesome to be very ambitious. And honestly, if COVID hadn't gotten y'all, I think you could have done like 4 or 5 research questions and done them awesome. So, but I think, Michelle, you're right. We probably should focus on like either grass or flower.
Yeah, that could just reduce the variables that you would have to consider. So you can just each year narrow things down. But I see that it's 8:02. I think we timed this presentation perfectly within the parameters of the time that we set. So I just want to say thank y'all again, and we could not brag on y'all enough of how this really warms our hearts to see this project, and y'all's dedication to the quest for knowledge. So for you three, Jocelyn, Cristobal, and Natalie, we wish you nothing but the best for your future beyond high school, and for your fellow students who are a year or so behind you. We wish them the best on continuing this experiment. So thank y'all again for presenting, and thank you, Melanie, for mentoring and teaching them.
Thank you for joining us.
Mhm.
It's been a pleasure presenting for y'all.
Thank
Yes.
you, everybody, and happy
Great
holidays.
job.
Thank you.
Yes,
Yes.
thank y'all.
It has. And I want to give a big shout out to Mr. Fry, who is our principal, who we would not be able to do this without his support. He has made all of this possible. There he is. He's actually showing his face now. Oh, with his Notre Dame background. I was hoping he'd leave that at home today. But anyway, we would not be able to do this without Mr. Fry's support. So I just wanted to give a big shout out to him, because, you know, he lets these kids out of class to go do, you know, to go dig in the dirt and to go fish and to go, you know, and he doesn't
Good stuff.
ask questions when I say, hey, Mr. Friday, we're gonna go fish in the lake. You know, he's just like, okay, have fun. So yeah.
Hands-on is the best way to learn. So thank you all so much. And we recorded this so we can make it available. I can get with you, Melanie, to share the recording.
Awesome.
If anyone thinks of any questions, please get in contact with our teacher and let her know so that we can look into it for next year.
All right, yeah, we'll probably think
Guys.
in the middle of the night, we'll think of questions and comments we can send to you. All right, well,
I think Jocelyn dropped my email in the chat. So if y'all have any questions you want to be relayed to this group, yeah, just send me a message and I will pass it along.
Hello,
All right.
everyone. My name is David Sines. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer for the district. And I just want to thank the students. You guys did a great job. Ms. Grubbs, thank you for your time dedicated to this. And of course, thank you to the National Prairies, or I'm sorry, for the Texas Prairies Association. Am I getting that right? And just for offering this opportunity to our students. I'm glad I got to witness part of the presentation. I was a little late, but got to see some amazing work.
Thank you, Dr. Sines.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Y'all have such good support. So that's a gem to have support like that from your school.
All right, without further ado,
Wait, I'd like to say one thing real quick. I'm impressed that Fort Worth ISD, the administrators are here. That's great, guys. I'm very impressed. Thank you for coming and seeing this wonderful work that the kids have done. That goes a long way.
Our pleasure. This is great. And just so the team knows, and all the adults on the call, as you all might agree, those that have watched several scholarly presentations and experiments at the master's and even doctoral level, I think the students did great. It's not even qualifying because they're 18 or high school kids. This was great college level research work that was presented. And so this is very exciting.
okay, I think we're gonna go now. Happy holidays and thank you everybody for being here.
Bye.
Thank you. I'm pressing ends now, so.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you.